Hi, I'm Ariezz Adriano, founder and CEO of Lib Vibes Only, and this is the LVO Podcast. And welcome back to another episode of the LVO Podcast. If you're new here, this is the official voice of the brand, and over here we are covering conversations surrounding identity, culture, and representation. In the last few episodes and really in the last season, uh, I took some time to really talk about the mindset, and the standards behind the clothing brand. And throughout the season, and even in the last two episodes of this season, we briefly cover one of the key mindset behind the brand, which is the no spot story mindset. This mindset is really the standard behind this brand. It's the core behind everything we do. I've lived it. I'm living it. And I do know that people that live that mindset live a very, enjoyable life. By the end of this episode today, I really do uh, hope that you do not only get the understanding of no spotter story, but you find some reasons to make it applicable in your life. My ultimate goal here today, man, is for people to really get this concept and really make it applicable in their lives. So I, you know, do know that in order for you to even think or consider, making that a mindset, you have to fully understand it. So I want to take some time to really define, what that is, and I'll be really leaning hard on the brand's perspective of this. For starters, over here, no spotter story is not just a phrase, it's really that stand of truth, discipline, and accountability for the brand. To take it further, whenever you tell yourself the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, you have a nose, you operate on a no spotter story mindset. If you take responsibilities, even when it's difficult, you operate on no spotter story mindset. If you stay disciplined when nobody is watching, again, no spoilers to our mindset. When you don't pretend to be something you're not, when you focus on building, you're operating on no spoilers to your mindset. When you don't spend your time explaining yourself and you spend most of your time executing, you're operating on no spoilers to your mindset. Like, why does this matter? I do think this matter because a lot of us are feeling, and it's not because we don't have talent. It's not because we are not creative enough, or we don't have the resources. But I think a lot of us are like we are feeling because we're lacking consistency, discipline, and most importantly, we are not honest with ourselves. When you are not honest with yourself, pretty much you start to tell yourself the spotter stories, the excuses, the narratives, the justifications, all that spotter stories. Let's talk about identity a little bit. For me, identity is not what you say it is or what you want it to be. Your identity is really what your habits are proving. The truth is, our identity is being built daily. We are building it either through our disciplines or we are building it through excuses. Either way, you're building that identity on a daily basis. I started off by saying that I was hoping that you get some understanding of the no spotter story mindset, and hopefully you could apply it, to your own life. But really, to apply this, I think it's three things you really have to focus on. One is that self honesty, accountability, and discipline. Self honesty. You have to ask yourself the tough questions like, hey, man, what am I really doing? Did I really do what I said I was going to do? Am I living up to my words? And I'm, being who I'm supposed to be, all that, Also accountability. Accountability, really, we have to stop blaming others for our misfortunes, for our failures, for whatever's not going on in our life. And we have to start taking ownership. When you start taking ownership, that accountability mindset is also a no spotter story mindset. And lastly, discipline. You're not getting from point A to point B without a discipline, mindset. You have to do the work even when you don't feel like. Many days, with what I do here, with the brand, many days I don't want to do half the things I have to do, but I have to do them, because I said I would do that, so I have to live through it. While all of this is like applicable on an individual level, let's zoom out for a little bit, right? Because I don't think this is just personal. It also applies to our culture. Our culture is being built on our repeated behaviors. So, if a group of individuals, are living their lives with a bunch of excuses and reasons not to move forward, the culture is going to reflect it. Likewise, if a group of individuals are operating, with discipline and truth, their culture is also going to reflect that. Our culture can only be as strong as the standards that we are living by. I sincerely believe that, as individuals and as a culture, if we really want to progress, we cannot build it on shortcuts. We cannot build it on excuses. We cannot build it on inconsistency. Progress, I believe, requires discipline, accountability, and truth. This is really not about criticism, it's really about responsibility because once we can understand this standard, this mindset, we can choose to do better, we can choose to live it. That's where here at the brand we put these mindsets and philosophies on our clothing, as a reminder. When you wear it, we hope that you be reminded that you should move like you have no time for spotted story, or you should move like things are happening, or you should move like you really about focusing on your business, you minding your own business. So these are not just decorations. I really hope that every time you out there, get a piece and wear it, you really reminding yourself of those strong standards and philosophies that get ready to get you from point A to point B. I said a lot here in a short time, but let me bring it all together because my hope is that if you never took anything from everything I said here, I really want you to understand that no spotted story is not about perfection. It's really about commitment, that commitment to truth, discipline and growth. I really believe that if you apply this mindset, man, you become more consistent, you become more clear, and you become more disciplined. And really, over time, you become someone who starts to build and not, spend time making excuses and explaining yourselves and all that stuff. So if this, little message challenge you, I think that's a good thing because growth really requires discomfort. And if this message resonated with you, hey, please subscribe to the LVO channel. You can join the conversations in the comment, and share this with someone who you think needs to hear it. And if you really want to go further and engage more directly, you can visit us on our website, and get your pieces and show to the world that you represent. When you wear these, you're not just wearing it on your body, but you really, applying it in your life. Hey, until then, man, LIB Vibes Only, no spoiler story out.